Okay, this drawing is about shading, but before we talk about shading, I want to talk about how to draw these shapes. And one thing you want to avoid is making the bottom of these objects flat. You've got to make that oval shape. Any cylinder or variation on a cylinder, whether it's a bottle or a coffee cup or a flower pot or a vase, is going to have that oval shape at the top and the bottom. You've got to practice making that shape. It's like a shallow football it's an ellipse. It's an oval, and that's going to make the shape of the object more convincing and more realistic. And if you have the shape right and you get the shading right, it becomes very convincing. It really starts to look three-dimensional. You can just take a piece of paper and make a bunch of ovals like I'm doing here, just to practice making that shape. When you start the drawing, even though we're going to be adding shading, it starts as a contour drawing. It starts the same way we've been drawing. You've got to get the edges and the shape. And if you know how to make an oval, it's going to help you a lot with a lot of these objects. So when you set up your still life, I want you to, two things I want to emphasize. One is the lighting, and two, the arrangement. Now here, the lighting is no good. It's too flat. There's too much light. I need the lighting to, see, I'm starting to play with it here. I need the principal light source to be coming from one side so that one side of the objects is catching more light than the other. So you have a light side and a dark side. In this case, the light is coming from the left. So the left side of the objects is illuminated and the right side is in shadow. So the lighting is much better now than it was in the beginning. The arrangement also is not good. Everything is in a line and there's space between every object. I want you to jumble the objects up so that there's overlap. When everything's in a line, it's awkward. Here I'm going to show you how I would draw the arrangement where everything is in a line and how you'll see what happens when they line up. So, I'm trying to draw the objects, trying to get the shapes right, and I'm trying to get the size and the spatial relationships and all that stuff first before I add any shading. But in lining up the objects and in separating the objects, you could draw a straight line right along the bottom of the still life, and everything would be on that line. And that's no good. I want them to be on different planes. So instead of being like this, where they're all in a line and they're all separated, I want you to take the objects and move them around and put some of them in front of others. Kind of bunch them up like this. And you can see what that does. There's no more, you couldn't draw a line across the bottom of the arrangement and everything would line up like it did before. It's not going to do that now. Now we've got overlap. We've got more interesting shadows. We've got a more challenging and more complicated still life to draw, yes, but one that is going to help you to learn how to shade better than the first arrangement. So lighting and arrangement, very important. When you set up your still life, I want you to get that lighting so it's coming from one side. You might have to turn some lights off. You might have to move it around. You might have to close the drapes on the window or whatever. But you've got to get that lighting coming from one side so that one side is illuminated and one side is in shadow. So the next bit on the video is a time-lapse thing with me drawing and showing how to shade with a pencil. I'm starting with the contour lines. I'm starting with the basic shapes. I'm keeping it light in the beginning. I'm not thinking about details. I'm not thinking about shadows yet. I'm trying to just block in the basic arrangement and get those shapes right. And then once I'm reasonably happy with the shapes and the scale of the drawing and how it fits on the paper and how the various objects relate to one another and are they convincing in their size and their shape, then I can start to add some shading. Actually, this is not the time-lapse one. This is showing the initial sketch of the objects when they're arranged properly. And then the next one is the time-lapse drawing, right? That goes faster. So adding shading, you got to use the blending stump. I'm going to talk faster too, I guess. And use your thumbs, use your finger, you've got to fade those shadows. You can't make them too definite. Shading is all about soft edges and hard edges.